tears and comb your hair. Save your soul tonight. Drift among the faithful, bury your desires. Aberrations fill your head. You need a place to hide, and I am. Do you remember me? And the kid I used to be? Do you remember me? When your world comes crashing down, I want to be there. I'm not Jesus, Jesus wasn't there. You confess it all away, but it's only to me. I'm not Jesus, I will not forgive. No, I won't. No, I won't. I thought you were a good man. I thought you talked to God. You hypocritic, messianic, child abusing, turned satanic. Do you remember me? Do you remember me? The kid I used to be? Do you remember? Do you remember? When your whole world comes undone, let me be the one to say, I'm not Jesus, you can't run away. And the innocent you spoil, found your way to live. I'm not Jesus, I will not forgive. Do you remember me? And the kid I used to be? Not the same as I used to be. Oh, do you remember my name? When your world comes crashing down, I want to be there. I'm not Jesus, Jesus wasn't there. You confess it all away, but it's only to me. I'm not Jesus, I will not. I'm not Jesus, I will not forgive. Oh, I will not forgive. Yeah, yeah. No, I will not forgive.
Okay, so we're back, and here is my whole point to what I had just heard from the stupid idiot of the week. I noticed that Brett likes to bring up the fact that he didn't have this issue back in his day, but I distinctly recall back then the WWE wasn't tied into like 10,000 different outlets, and Bret Hart didn't have to travel to thousands of different places to do promotion. He didn't have to wrestle every fucking night. He didn't have to be at 10 different places at once. He had a pretty tidy schedule. Meanwhile, these guys today are being worked to death. So everybody, and I mean everybody, is prone to fucking up a couple times. So, as far as I'm concerned, he is right. You have to trust the people that you're with. But don't sit there and villainize Seth Rollins just because a couple of people and himself have gotten hurt. There are other people that this has happened to. This is not just because of one person hurting somebody else because they're, quote, unprofessional or don't know what they're doing or whatever. It's literally the fact that they're so run ragged that shit happens. Accidents happen. and he really needs to pretty much put out his fucking big girl britches and get over it. For somebody who doesn't like the product, he sure does show up a lot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of ironic.
It's a paycheck.
Yep. I hate to say it because I used to love him, but...
Same. And you know, I still do. I will always respect everything he's done. I still respect him as a, you know, as a person, because he's gone through so much and still persevered. But sometimes you need to bite your tongue. Like, if you don't know what you're talking about, you literally need to just bite your tongue and move on. Everything does not need a reaction. I mean, if that was the case, we'd have a 5-hour show. Okay? like everything does not require a reaction. And if you feel compelled to react and like say stuff that is so astronomically just intentionally kind of eye-catching, it's attention. That's what it is. So whatever, be it as it may, here's your attention, sir. But yeah, I disagree. Honestly, the whole thing with Rollins is it's basically unfortunate circumstances. And you also need to hold the people who are injured accountable as well. Mm-hmm. I recently saw a side-by-side of Finn Balor and Dean Ambrose taking the exact same spot, with Dean taking it accurately and Finn not. So everybody needs to be accountable for it. And just because somebody gets injured does not mean that they're not accountable for their actions as well. The thing with Sting was just a freak accident, and it happens. Like, it really does. Like, anything can happen at any point, which is something that you need to take into consideration. It's not a safe industry. It really isn't.
And it just gets harder the more you work with these people.
Yeah, like, these people work 300 plus days a year. There's 365 days in a year. So you have the equivalent of 2 months off a year, spread out through the year. So, so that's not a lot of time. Like, the average person who works a 9 to 5 gets 2 weeks vacation straight. These people don't. So, you know, they work harder and get less time off. So what the fuck do you expect? But yeah, stupid idiot of the week, done.
Boo. Now we have a half hour to dedicate to everything else.
Not hard. So real quick, the injury train thing is obviously about Finn Balor. At SummerSlam, 3 minutes into the match with Seth Rollins, which, mind you, was a 21-minute match, give or take a little bit of time. It was about a 20-minute match. So 3 minutes into the match, he takes the power bomb off the barricade, which is something that Seth has done numerous times. The way Balor landed, he dislocated his shoulder. And in true metal fashion, Balor relocates his shoulder and muscles through a dislocated shoulder to not just finish the match, but to win the match. Motherfucker, Finn Balor, you are the real MVP. I would have been on the ground crying. I would have been inconsolable. I would have just been I would have been destroyed. But if you actually watch the match, I can spot it now just watching it, knowing what happened.
Yep.
But you see the exact point of impact. You physically see his shoulder dislodge. And then you see him on the ground against the barricade, and he just hawks his arm back and you literally see his shoulder move. And I'm like, that doesn't look normal. Like, I don't think that's supposed to be like that. Like, I don't think that's supposed to be how the human body functions. But so Finn, he, honored his commitment to being on Good Morning America. He, powered through it. But then later in the day, discovered through an examination that he suffered a major shoulder injury in that, in that moment. And there was like some tear in his shoulder and tore about half of his bicep and pec minor. And so it obviously required surgery, so he had to relinquish the Universal Championship. He's slated to be out for at least 180 to 190 days, with major improvement through rehabilitation. He will be out until at the very earliest mid-February. This could put him back in time for WrestleMania in April. Obviously rehabilitation and setbacks not being a thing. But with an injury with the shoulder, it's hard to gauge because everybody heals differently. So obviously we wish the very best to Finn, not only after surgery, which was successful, by the way, and through rehabilitation, but, just to get back to where he needs to be. We hope for the absolute best for him because he's such a great talent. And, that really set a somber kind of mood for the week because, he's worked so hard. And this is just proof that sacrifices do happen every single time you step into those, anytime you step into a ring, anything can happen. So that is unfortunately the side effect of the business.
Sad day.
And it's really, really sad because you never want to hear about anybody getting injured, but his struggle through, everything that he's overcome, everything he's worked for, it's very, very somber and very, very saddening to see somebody who works that hard for so long finally get to that, apex of what they've worked for only to have it ripped away by injury. That sucks. And the same thing happened with Seth Rollins when he got injured with the knee. A move he's done 1,000 times, and he completely fucks his knee up. It's one of those things that's super unfortunate, but it does unfortunately happen. So SummerSlam as a whole, as we mentioned before, was decent. So there was a 12-man tag match and another tag team match in the pre-show thing. I didn't watch the pre-show at all, so I'm not going to pretend that I seen any of it. I seen the tail end of the Zayn and Neville and the Dudley Boys match, which Zayn and Neville won. I guess American Alpha, the Hype Bros, and the Usos defeated Breezango, the Ascension, and the Vaudevillains in a match that's a repeat from fucking SmackDown. So Sheamus defeated Cesaro in the first of a best of 7 series. Ugh. Whatever. And then Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens defeated Enzo and Big Cass. That was a fun match. Really, really good match. The women's title match was really, really low booked. I was not expecting it, not only in the first hour, but the second match of the main show.
I missed most of it.
But Charlotte defeated Sasha to reclaim the women's championship. And now Sasha has been taken off of a good